Hi, I'm Rachel. Last year, my family signed an $87,000 wedding contract under my name without asking. When I refused to pay, they called me selfish. But what happened next? Well, let's just say they didn't expect me to fight back. Have you ever been in a situation where your family pushed you too far? Let me know in the comments. I still remember the email. It was like a punch to the gut. Subject line, wedding contract details. I opened it, half expecting something harmless, but when I saw the number, my hands went cold. $87,000, a wedding contract, signed under my name, and I hadn't even been asked. It was for my sister's wedding, or at least that's what they said. "You're the one making the most money, Rachel. It makes sense for you to cover it," my mom had said when I confronted her. Just like that. No apology, no explanation, just an expectation that I should foot the bill. My throat tightened as I stared at the screen. How could they do this to me? "Mom, you signed this without even talking to me. This isn't just a small favor, this is insane," my voice shaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. Her response was a sharp sigh, followed by, "You're being dramatic. It's for the family. You can afford it." Her tone was so matter-of-fact, like it was nothing more than an errand I was too stubborn to complete. I gritted my teeth. "This is not a favor. This is manipulation." My head was spinning. The contract was already signed, dated, everything. They'd done this without telling me. I felt the anger rise. Too much, too fast. I wasn't the bank, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let them treat me like one. "Rachel, you're being selfish," my sister added, her voice cold on the phone. "It's just a little money. You can spare it." "Just a little money?" I laughed, though it didn't feel like laughter at all. "It's my name on the contract. It's not just a little money. It's $87,000. You're acting like we're asking for your life savings. You're the one with the job, remember?" Emily's words cut through the phone, thick with entitlement. "Don't be so greedy." I hung up. I couldn't deal with this anymore. The next call I made was to the event company. My hands were shaking as I dialed, a mix of frustration and disbelief. When a voice answered, I asked them straight up, "Did my family sign this contract without my consent?" There was a pause, then a soft, apologetic tone. "Yes, Miss Turner, the contract is valid, but I noticed that your signature appears unusual. We're looking into it now." I sat back, breathing heavily. "Find out everything. Get back to me," I demanded, trying to keep the panic from showing in my voice. If they'd forged my signature, that was one thing I could control. I wasn't about to let this slide. The next day, I got the call. "Miss Turner, after investigating, we have confirmed that your signature was forged. We've escalated the issue to our legal department." My stomach turned. I wasn't sure whether to be relieved or horrified. Either way, I knew this wasn't over, and I wasn't going to back down. The weight of the situation sat heavy on me as I stared at the contract on my desk. I had no idea what was coming next, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. The days following the contract fiasco felt like walking through fog. I couldn't even get a moment's peace. Calls kept coming, all from the same 3 numbers I knew too well: my mom, my sister, and sometimes my dad. None of them were looking to apologize. They weren't even calling to make it right. "Rachel, you've made a huge mistake," my mom said over the phone, her voice tight with frustration. "This is family, and you're going to ruin it all over money?" "Mom," I said, feeling my patience thin, "you signed the contract without telling me. How is that okay? I'm not a bank. Quit acting like this is the end of the world, she shot back, her words biting. You can afford it. Stop being so selfish. The word hung in the air for a second. Selfish. The way she said it felt like an accusation, like I had done something so wrong by refusing to be a part of their mess. That evening, I was at the dinner table when Emily, my sister, joined the conversation. You're being unreasonable, she said, not even bothering to greet me first. Why can't you just help us out for once? It's not like we're asking for much. The smugness in her tone made my blood boil. It's not about whether you're asking for much, Emily, I said, barely able to keep my voice level. You don't get to make decisions for me without asking. That's not helping. That's controlling. She looked at me as if I had just insulted her entire existence. You've changed, she said, almost in disbelief. You used to be there for us. Now you're just this. I stood up abruptly, pushing my chair back. I couldn't sit there anymore, pretending everything was normal. I'm done being your fallback option, I said, before walking out of the room, leaving her stunned behind me. In the following days, nothing got better. Every phone call with my mom and sister turned into a tug of war, a battle of guilt trips and empty threats. They both implied they'd take legal action if I didn't pay up. It was like they believed I had nothing better to do than clean up their mess. Rachel, don't make this harder than it has to be, my mom warned one day. I'll be forced to take this to court if you don't step up. Good luck with that, I muttered under my breath, hanging up the phone before she could say more. I was holding it together, barely. My office had become my only escape, but even there, the anxiety started creeping in. I couldn't focus on work when I was constantly waiting for the next call from one of them. The stress was wearing me down. But then, there was Alex. He had been my rock for years, and this time was no different. I'm not saying you're wrong, Rachel, because you're not, Alex said as we sat at his office, the only place I could seem to get a breather. But you can't keep letting them push you like this. It's about time you take control. This is your life. I nodded, grateful for the distraction, but I could hear the tension in his voice. I'm trying to, Alex, but they don't stop. They keep coming at me, making me feel like I'm the bad guy. You're not the bad guy, he said, leaning back in his chair. They're the ones who crossed the line. You don't owe them a damn thing, especially not after what they've pulled. I appreciated his words, but I was still feeling trapped, and he could see it. What do I do now? I asked, rubbing my temples. It feels like I'm drowning in this, and every time I think it's over, it's not. Alex exhaled slowly, then pulled out a folder from his desk. I've got the next steps, he said. First thing, we need to make sure everything about the contract is above board. No more guessing games. Then we'll start pushing back legally if it comes to that. His reassurance gave me a tiny glimmer of hope. I didn't feel like I was in this alone anymore, even if the road ahead seemed long. But in that moment, something shifted. I could feel the anger still bubbling up, but I also felt a resolve building inside me. I was done being the one everyone turned to when things went wrong. I had been doing it for years, sacrificing, putting everyone else first, letting them run my life for me. That was the moment I realized I had to stop. I can't keep doing this, I said quietly, more to myself than to Alex. They think they can control me, but not anymore. Alex didn't say anything at first. He just watched me with that steady, comforting gaze of his. Finally, he gave a small nod. I'll be with you every step of the way. But even as he said it, I could already feel the shift inside me. There was no going back now. If I wanted to finally break free from the years of manipulation, I'd have to do it on my own terms. And if that meant cutting them out for good, so be it. The phone rang as I stood up to leave Alex's office. My mom's name flashed on the screen. I didn't pick it up. I couldn't do this anymore. It was time for them to figure things out without me. The investigation felt endless. I spent hours on the phone, flipping through emails and checking old documents, trying to piece together what my family had done. It didn't take long before the truth started to feel more like a puzzle I was starting to solve. The first breakthrough came one morning, just after I had decided to dig into the company that had organized the wedding contract. I was scrolling through my inbox when a new email caught my attention. The subject line was simple: wedding contract, follow-up. The name in the sender's field was unfamiliar. Some employee from the event company I didn't recall speaking to before. "Ms. Turner," the email began, "I hope this message finds you well. I've been reviewing your contract and noticed an issue with your signature. Upon further investigation, it appears the contract was signed without your explicit consent. We are currently reviewing the matter internally and wanted to keep you informed." My heart skipped a beat. Finally, a concrete piece of evidence. I leaned back in my chair, processing what I had just read. This wasn't just some small oversight. The company had confirmed what I'd been suspecting all along. My signature had been forged. The weight of it all started to sink in, but it wasn't enough yet. I needed more. I needed to understand exactly who had done this and why. I didn't want to jump the gun and make any rash decisions without solid proof. A part of me wondered if this was just a small mistake, if there was some explanation. But another part, the one that had been pushed aside for so long, was done asking questions. The truth had been staring me in the face, but I wasn't sure I wanted to acknowledge it. My mom, my sister, the two people who should have had my back were the ones who had put me here. I sat at my desk, rereading the email. I needed to follow up, and fast. As soon as I hit reply, my phone rang. The number wasn't familiar, but I picked up anyway. "Rachel?" A calm voice greeted me. "This is Tyler from the event company. I'm the one who flagged your signature issue. I wanted to reach out and make sure you knew we're looking into it. I'm sorry this has caused you any inconvenience." I swallowed hard. "Tyler," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady, "do you have any idea who signed that contract? I know it wasn't me." He paused, and I could hear the shuffle of papers in the background. "I'm not sure at this point, but I can tell you that we found discrepancies with the signature. It was signed off by someone who didn't present the proper identification." His voice was quiet, but I could hear the undertone of concern. "We've escalated this to our legal team. You'll be kept updated." "Thank you, Tyler. Please keep me posted." I hung up, staring at the wall for a few moments, processing what he'd said. My hands were shaking now. The pieces were falling into place, but I still wasn't sure what to make of it. I glanced at the clock. It had been 2 days since the conversation with Alex, and I still wasn't sure what the right move was. The pressure was building. My mom had already left a few voicemails threatening legal action, claiming I was ruining everything for Emily. Every call, every message felt like another wave crashing down on me. "Stop being difficult," my mom had said the last time we spoke. "You're ruining your sister's wedding. You know how important this is to the family." I dialed Alex's number. "I just got off the phone with the event company. They've confirmed the signature was forged. It wasn't me." There was a slight pause before Alex spoke, his voice even and calm. "Rachel, this is good news. It's what you needed to move forward. Now we've got a solid case." "Right," I muttered, rubbing my forehead. "But I don't know what to do next. I can't just act on a hunch. I need more evidence. I need to know who did this." Alex let out a sigh, one I could practically hear him exhale with a shake of his head. You're going to have to wait for the legal team to work this out. You don't want to make a move too early, especially if they're about to make a move on their own. I leaned back in my chair, a wave of frustration rolling through me. It was always the waiting, the constant feeling of being in limbo. Fine. But I'm not going to sit around and let them get away with this. Not anymore. I know, Alex replied. You've got the right mindset. Just hang tight and let's see what the legal team digs up. The day I received the email from the event company felt like the calm before the storm. It was official now, no going back. The legal department had taken over, and they confirmed everything I'd suspected. The signature on the wedding contract was a forgery. There was no question about it anymore. The responsibility, the financial ruin, the mess. It was all on my family now. But when my mom and Emily got the news, the reaction wasn't what I expected. I had just come out of a meeting when my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost didn't pick up, but something pushed me to. Maybe it was the anticipation. Maybe I was hoping for an apology that was never going to come. Rachel. My mom's voice was tight, barely controlled. What did you do? I didn't do anything. You did, I replied, my voice steady but not without an edge. What are you talking about? She snapped. You've ruined everything. You've destroyed Emily's wedding. How could you do this to your own family? I exhaled slowly, pressing my palm against my forehead. I didn't ruin anything. You signed the contract without asking me, without even telling me. You went behind my back and forged my name. Don't blame me for your mistakes. A silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken words. I did it for the family, Rachel. You're the one who's supposed to support us, she said, the guilt laced with defiance. Now look at what you've done. I wanted to scream, to tell her that I had been the one supporting them for years, always stepping in when they needed me, always sacrificing my own peace for their comfort. But instead, I stayed calm. It's not about supporting you, Mom. It's about respecting me. I don't owe you this. Not like this. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hand still gripping it tightly. It was the first time I'd said something like that to her. It felt like a small victory, but the aftermath was just beginning. The next few days were a blur of messages, angry texts from Emily, who couldn't believe I'd done this to her. You've ruined everything, Rachel. You're breaking our family apart, she wrote, with the harshness of someone who didn't understand or didn't care to understand. I was tired of fighting them. They didn't see it. They didn't see the toll this had taken on me. Instead of owning up to their actions, they just blamed me, just like they always had. Then came the lawyer. My mom had enlisted one, of course. I almost laughed when I saw the first official letter accusing me of damaging the wedding plans and demanding payment for the contract. They were trying to drag me into a legal battle. I tossed the letter aside. I had never felt more disconnected from my family in my entire life. They were acting like I had been the one to do something wrong. I had been betrayed by them, and now they were twisting the story to make me the villain. But I wasn't going to let them win. Not this time. I sat at my desk one afternoon, Alex's words echoing in my head. Take control, Rachel. This is your life. I didn't feel in control, but I could sense a shift. I wasn't about to back down now. The phone rang again. It was Emily. Rachel, she said, her voice softer now, but still carrying the bitterness. You don't understand. Mom's going crazy. She says you're going to cost us everything. I'm not the one who forged the signature, Emily. I snapped, my patience running thin. You and Mom are the ones who crossed the line, not me. But you've taken it too far. Do you realize what you've done? She hissed. This is going to destroy everything. The wedding, the family, us. I exhaled deeply, rubbing the bridge of my nose. I wasn't going to argue with her. It was pointless. I didn't do anything, Emily. I just uncovered the truth. If that destroys the family, then maybe it's time to realize the family wasn't as solid as you thought. Silence. The kind of silence that told me everything I needed to know. Fine, she said, the coldness creeping back into her voice. I guess we'll see what happens next. But just know, this isn't over. You'll regret this. Every time my phone rang, I knew who it was before I even looked. It was always one of them, my mom or Emily, trying to twist the knife a little deeper. They'd gotten the memo that I wasn't backing down, and they didn't like it. You're ruining us, Rachel, my mom said during one of our calls, her voice tight with barely contained anger. I don't know what you expect us to do now. You've destroyed Emily's future with this mess. Mom, I didn't do anything, I shot back, trying to keep my voice calm, but the frustration bubbled up anyway. You're the ones who signed the contract without asking me. You're the ones who created this mess. I'm not the bad guy here. She didn't respond right away, but I could hear her breath catching. You're supposed to support your family, Rachel. This isn't just about money. It's about family. I wanted to scream, to tell her that I had always supported them, that I had given up so much for them, and all I got in return was manipulation. But instead, I just stayed silent, knowing any words from me wouldn't matter. And then there was Emily. Her messages were getting uglier by the day. You're selfish, she wrote one morning. Do you have any idea what you're doing to us? We trusted you. I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt, but it was quickly drowned out by the anger. They had crossed a line. I wasn't going to let them control me anymore. But the guilt still lingered. I couldn't deny that the backlash from the whole thing was hitting harder than I expected. The phone calls, the endless messages, the blaming. It felt like the whole world was coming down on me. My mom was losing her business. Karen's consulting firm was in jeopardy now, the clients pulling out one after another. She wasn't just upset. She was terrified. I could hear it in her voice each time we spoke. She hadn't called to apologize. She hadn't called to say she was wrong. She called to tell me that I was the problem. I couldn't ignore the consequences either. The neighbors and friends, people I'd known my whole life, had started pulling away from me too. Everyone who had once congratulated me on my career, my life, now seemed to have something else to say. Everyone was sorry for my family. It felt suffocating. I was drowning in their anger, and I couldn't figure out a way to escape it. It was a Friday afternoon when I received the email from the legal team handling my mom's case. The subject line was sharp. Urgent. Legal update on family situation. They had reached out to me for clarification regarding a potential settlement, but it was clear this was no longer just a matter of a signed contract. It was about something much bigger. As I read through the details, a new wave of frustration hit me. The firm had confirmed that my family was being blacklisted by several high-profile clients. Karen's reputation was in tatters, and even Emily's friends started distancing themselves. I had no choice but to face the truth. The longer I stayed tied to their mess, the longer I would be dragged down with them. My family was imploding, and I could no longer sit there pretending it wasn't happening. I can't keep doing this, I whispered to myself, sitting at my desk, staring at the email on my screen. It was more than just the financial strain or the legal mess. It was the emotional toll, the constant manipulation, the weight of being the one who always had to fix things. I had done it for years, but I couldn't anymore, not when it meant sacrificing my own well-being. I called Alex later that evening. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could remind me that this wasn't my fault. "It's not just about the money," I said when he picked up. "It's everything. My family, my life, it's all falling apart because of their choices. I've been doing this for so long, sacrificing everything for them, and now I'm the one who's left holding the bag." Alex paused, and I could hear the sound of him shifting in his chair. "I know it feels like you're the one who has to carry it all, but you don't have to anymore. They've pushed you to this point, Rachel. You can walk away." The words hit me like a breath of fresh air, but I wasn't sure I could. Could I really walk away from everything I had known? Could I really cut my family out of my life, knowing what that would mean? "I don't want to feel guilty anymore," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "I don't want to be the one they turn to when they screw up." Alex's voice softened. "Then don't. You don't owe them anything." That was the turning point. The decision wasn't easy, but it was the only way forward. I had been pulled in every direction for too long, and the more I gave, the more they took. They had to learn to stand on their own, and I had to learn to stand alone. I spent the next few hours packing my things. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even a full move, not yet. But it felt like a quiet act of rebellion, a statement to myself that I was done playing their game. When I finally sat down to make the call to my mom, I didn't know what to expect. She answered on the first ring. "Rachel, you can't just leave us like this. We need you." "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, my voice steady. "I can't be there for you anymore. You need to figure this out on your own. I'm done." And with that, I hung up. I knew it would be the last time I would speak to her for a while. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep letting them destroy me for their own convenience. The weeks after cutting ties with my family were a mix of relief and unsettling silence. I had begun to rebuild my life, or at least started to. My work was starting to feel more like my own again, not something I had to do to please anyone else. But just as I was starting to feel like I could breathe, something happened that flipped everything upside down. It came through an email, not from any of my family members, but from an anonymous source. The subject line read, "Important financial information about Karen Turner." My hands shook as I opened it, expecting just another piece of gossip. But what I found was far worse. The email contained a series of financial documents, files I couldn't even begin to fathom. It seemed my mom, Karen, had a history far darker than I ever imagined. There were contracts, loan agreements, bank transfers, all dated years before the wedding contract fiasco. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. My mom had been involved in a long-running scheme, hiding debts and falsifying transactions for as long as I could remember. I stared at the documents, my mind racing. How could I have been so blind? I had always thought my mom had it together. Strong, business savvy, always in control. But this wasn't just a matter of one bad decision. It was a pattern, a lifestyle of manipulation and dishonesty. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it hitting me hard. The wedding contract wasn't just the tip of the iceberg. It was part of a much bigger, more dangerous web of lies. But the more I looked through these files, the more I realized this wasn't something I could ignore. This was beyond me now. This was the truth, and it couldn't stay hidden any longer. I couldn't sit on this. I didn't want to, but I had to tell someone. So, I did what I knew was the only way to handle it. I sent the documents to my lawyer, Alex. I wasn't sure what would happen next, But I couldn't let it go. The next morning, the phone call came. "Rachel," Alex said, his tone serious. "You need to come in. We need to talk." I didn't hesitate. I drove straight to his office, the entire drive feeling like a countdown to something I couldn't avoid. When I got there, he didn't waste time. "This is bigger than you realize," he said as soon as I walked in. "Karen's been hiding this for years. This isn't just a few mistakes. This is financial fraud, and it involves people you don't even know yet." My heart sank. This was bigger than I'd thought. But it didn't stop there. "Your mom's not the only one involved," Alex continued. "Your stepdad? He's been a part of it too. There's a lot more going on here than just forgery." I felt dizzy. My stepdad, Greg, had always been quiet, passive even, someone who seemed to go along with whatever Karen said. But to think he was involved too? It shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. "What are we looking at here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Right now, we're looking at major legal action. Fraud, money laundering, this goes deep. And it's not just about the money, it's about trust. You've got to be ready for what's coming." I nodded, my mind swirling. I had no idea how far this would go, but I couldn't back down now. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't go back to my normal routine. Every phone call, every message from my family was a reminder that the life I'd known was crumbling apart. Emily had sent me several more angry texts. She was blaming me, just like my mom. It was clear to me now that they wouldn't take responsibility. They never would. I thought back to all the years I had tried to make everything work. I had been the peacekeeper, the one who always made sure things ran smoothly. I had carried them, taken care of them. But now, with everything exposed, I couldn't be the one to fix it anymore. They were on their own. One night, after a particularly nasty exchange with my mom, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. I could hear her voice in my head, telling me I was ruining everything. She didn't understand. She would never understand. The truth was right there, staring at me. I couldn't be their savior anymore, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't sure I wanted to be. The family I had once felt loyal to, the one I'd sacrificed so much for, was a lie. They weren't the people I thought they were. I wasn't the person they thought I was either. And that was okay. I dialed Alex again. "We need to go ahead with the legal route. We have to expose everything," I said when he answered. He paused for a moment, then replied, "Are you sure? This will change everything." I exhaled slowly. "Yes, I can't keep carrying this anymore. It's not just about me anymore. It's about taking control of my life." Things had started to fall into place, one piece at a time. With Alex's help and the hard evidence I had gathered, I could finally see a way out. I wasn't just fighting for the truth anymore. I was fighting for my life, my future, and the control I had let slip away for far too long. "Rachel, this is what we need," Alex said, holding up a stack of documents that I had sent him earlier. "We've got the proof, and now it's time to push." His words were like a breath of fresh air. The weight that had been pressing down on me for so long was lifting. I was no longer just reacting to the situation. I was taking charge. "I'm ready," I said, feeling a steady resolve grow inside me. I've got nothing left to lose. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't looking back. I was done letting my family manipulate me, guilt-trip me, and control every aspect of my life. I wasn't just cutting ties. I was taking control of my own future. I knew what I had to do next. It wasn't enough to just distance myself from them. I had to make sure they couldn't hurt me or anyone else again. With Alex's legal expertise, I filed a formal report against my mom, Karen, and the fraudulent activities she had been involved in for years. I wasn't just exposing the wedding contract anymore. I was pulling back the curtain on everything. The weeks that followed were a blur of meetings with Alex, more legal consultations, and a sense of growing determination. But things weren't easy. As soon as I made my move, my family's backlash intensified. The messages from Emily kept coming. "You're destroying us," she would text, each one colder than the last. "You've gone too far this time." I never replied. I wasn't surprised when Karen reached out, though. She had always been the more persistent of the two. Her voicemail was laced with panic. "Rachel, please listen to me. You're making a huge mistake. Think about what you're doing to this family. You're the one causing all of this." Her words were no different than the ones I had heard for years. They were the same pleas, the same manipulations. "I'm not causing this, Mom. You and Emily are. You've had your chances, and now you're going to have to face the consequences of your actions." I didn't listen to the rest. It wasn't my job to fix it anymore. I thought back to everything I had sacrificed, the years I had spent putting their needs first, always bending to their will. I had been the one to clean up the messes, to take responsibility for everything. It wasn't just the wedding contract. It was every time they called me to solve a problem, every time they used my success as an excuse to manipulate me into paying for their mistakes. It hit me then. If I didn't put a stop to this, I would never be free. And I wasn't about to keep living like this. I had already cut ties with them, but now I was going further. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about protecting my future. As expected, my family's desperation only grew. They tried to rally friends and extended family to convince me to come back, to make peace, to fix things. Emily even called a few of my old colleagues, painting me as the villain in the story. But no matter how hard they tried, it didn't work. Every step they took to pull me back only made me more determined to stand my ground. In a way, it felt like they were unraveling right in front of me. They had no one left to blame, no one left to manipulate. The more they tried to bury the truth, the more it came to light. And then came the moment that really hit home for me. Greg, my stepdad, the one who had stayed silent through everything, finally spoke up. He had been the last person I expected to say anything, but when he did, it was unexpected. "I don't know why I let it get this far," he said one evening, his voice heavy with regret. "Karen always had a way of getting her way, and I never stopped her. I should have." It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was the first time he had shown any sign of accountability, and for the first time, I believed he might actually be sorry. But it didn't matter anymore. "You didn't stop her because you were just as complicit," I said. The bitterness in my voice was sharp, but it wasn't for him. It was for myself. For all the years I had given up, waiting for someone to stand up for me. "I can't fix this," I told him. "And I don't want to. I'm done." It had been a long time coming, but things had finally settled. The legal battles, the public fallout, everything had reached its conclusion. Karen's reputation was in tatters, her business lost. The clients she had worked so hard to build relationships with turned their backs on her, and she was left scrambling for something that once seemed so secure. I didn't feel the rush of victory I thought I would. There was no sense of triumph in watching her fall. Maybe it was because, in the end, I never wanted this. I never wanted to be the one to destroy her life, even if she had been the one to destroy ours first. It wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure the truth came to light, and that, in the end, was all I cared about. Emily, my sister, had been the hardest to deal with. She was still furious with me, but not just because of the situation with the wedding contract. She felt abandoned, left to face the fallout of our mother's actions alone. She couldn't see it yet, but I knew what she was feeling. She was scared, and maybe a little guilty. "You've made a choice," she had told me during one of our last conversations. "But I can't follow you down this road. I don't want to lose everything." I didn't argue with her. I didn't have to. She would figure it out eventually. We all would. But I knew I wasn't going back to that life. I wasn't going to keep pretending that everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Karen had lost her career, her social standing, and most of her support network. The legal consequences were still unfolding, and the damage was irreversible. I didn't have to rub it in. She knew what she had done, and she had to live with it. I had thought for a while that I might feel some sense of satisfaction from this. But in the quiet moments, as I looked around at the life I was trying to build, I realized that the only thing I truly felt was peace. I had made my choice, and now I had to live with it. "Rachel?" My mom's voice came through the phone one afternoon. "I need to talk to you. We need to fix this. You can't just leave things like this." I didn't pick up. I had made it clear that I wasn't interested in reconciliation. I had already done the hard work of walking away from the toxic patterns that had kept me tied to them for so long. My life, my future, could never be defined by their mistakes again. Even though the legal battle wasn't over, there was nothing left for me to fight. I had done what I could to protect myself, and now I had to focus on what came next. I moved into a new apartment. It wasn't much, but it felt like a fresh start. I couldn't shake the weight of the past, but I was learning to move forward, piece by piece. Work was good. I felt like I was finally in control, finally making decisions for myself. The company I worked for had even offered me a promotion, a chance to lead a new project. Things were slowly falling into place, and with every day that passed, I could feel the past slipping away just a little bit more. Emily continued to send messages, but I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. I couldn't let her pull me back into the web of guilt that she and my mom had spent years weaving. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about me. About finding peace and not letting anyone take that from me again. The hardest part was knowing that, despite everything, part of me still wished we could have been a family again. But that wasn't my reality. I had to accept that they had made their choices, and now I had to live with mine. I had to start over, and this time, it was for me. As I walked through my new neighborhood, taking in the unfamiliar sights and sounds, I felt lighter than I had in a long time. I wasn't looking back. The noise, the manipulation, the endless cycles of guilt and blame, they were all behind me. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was free. I didn't need to hear from my mom or Emily again. I didn't need their forgiveness or their approval. I had learned the hard way that my life, my choices, my peace were mine to protect.